What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 160 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I'm your host, Liam Gavin, coming to you live from my dining room table. And today I want to give you all the NFL wildcard playoff recap. We got a lot of drama, a lot of action, blown leads, big comebacks, down to the wire games, and just upsets overall. So we'll start with the two Saturday games. Niners beat the Seahawks 41-23. Rookie Brock Purdy, 332 passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 119 rushing and a receiving touchdown. And Deebo Samuel, 6 catches for 133 and a touchdown. As for Geno Smith, 253 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 fumble. The rookie Kenny Walker, 63 rushing yards and a touchdown. And DK Metcalf, 10 grabs for $136 and 2 scores. So the Niners stay hot with this playoff win. They've now won 11 straight games. The Niners are now 3-0 against their divisional rival this season. And the rookie Brock Purdy continues to look like a veteran. He had 348 total yards, 4 total touchdowns, and no turnovers. And Purdy is now 6-0 as a starter. He also became the first rookie quarterback to win a playoff game since Russell Wilson did it in 2012. And the Niners offense, they just sliced through the Seahawks defense, both passing and running the ball. They had 513 total yards, with 181 of those yards being rushing yards. And as for the Niners defense, 3 sacks, 1 pick, and then 1 fumble. And as for the Seahawks, they made it tough for the Niners. They had a 17-16 lead in the first half, but in the second half, they were outscored 25-6. The Seahawks offense had 357 total yards, but Geno Smith had 2 turnovers. The biggest turnover was when they were deep into Niners territory. He fumbled, led to a Niners touchdown, and that pretty much swung momentum to the Niners. As for the Seahawks defense, they didn't show up at all. They got cooked for over 500 yards and could not force a turnover. And big credit to the Seahawks. The head coach, Pete Carroll, could win Coach of the Year with how well he constructed this team. This past offseason, the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson to Denver, and everyone thought, including me, that they were in a rebuilding phase. Geno Smith was a journeyman quarterback around the NFL, but suddenly he became a huge leader of this team in their success. And if you told me they'd go 9-8 with the playoff appearance before the season started, I'd say you're crazy. But they have a bright future. They have a lot of draft picks, and we'll see what they do. The next game would be the Jaguars beating the Chargers 31-30. Trevor Lawrence had 288 passing, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Travis Etienne, 109 rushing. Tight end Evan Ingram, 7 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. Christian Kirk, 8 catches, 78 yards and a touchdown. Zay Jones, 8 catches, 74 yards and a touchdown. And Marvin Jones had a touchdown catch. As for the Chargers, Justin Herbert, 273 passing, a touchdown, no interceptions. Austin Eckler had 2 rushing touchdowns. And tight end Gerald Everett, 6 grabs for 109 and a touchdown. So the Jags, they stay hot. They keep their winning streak alive. They move to the next round. They completed the 3rd largest comeback in playoff history after being down 27-0. The Jaguars had 5 total turnovers in the game, actually just in the first half alone, while the Chargers had 0 all game. But the Jaguars were able to overcome all that. Trevor Lawrence had an awful start in his playoff debut with 4 picks just in the first half, but bounced back in the second half with 4 touchdowns and no turnovers. And right after the Chargers got a touchdown to make it 24-0, the Jags punt returner muffed a punt that led to a field goal for the Chargers to make it 27-0. And before the first half ended, the Jags were able to score to make it 27-7, which gave them some hope. And in the second half, the Jags outscored the Chargers 24-3. The Jags offense had 405 yards with 117 rushing yards, and it was just a crazy win for the Jags after a crazy season. They were 3-7 in the start, finished 9-8 with the playoff win after being down 27-0. Huge shout out to Doug Peterson. He can easily win Coach of the Year with how he resurrected Trevor Lawrence after Trevor Lawrence had an awful rookie year. And that was due to his old head coach, Urban Meyer. And Doug Peterson is just a way better coach, Super Bowl winning coach. He went for 2 points, really dicey. In this game, he went for 2 to make their team go down by 2 points. Just overall, just a really good tandem of Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. The Jaguars also spent $200 million this free agency in the offseason, and it paid dividends for them. And as for the Chargers, there's just no reason they should have lost this game with the 27-0 lead. After they forced 5 turnovers and didn't turn the ball over once, The Chargers had 340 yards of offense, but they could not run the ball. They only had 67 rushing yards. And in the first half, the Chargers ran the ball very well. But in the second half, they ditched the run and they started passing, which led to incompletions, and that stopped the clock and gave the ball back to the Jags. The defense had 2 sacks and 4 interceptions, but they fell apart in the second half, especially when Joey Bosa slammed his helmet on the ground. The Jags scored 30-26 with 5.5 minutes left. He slammed his helmet on the ground. The penalty gave them extra yardage, which led to the 2-point conversion for the Jags to make it 30-28. And this was a big part of the game too. There was 8 minutes left. The Chargers missed a field goal, which would have made it 33-20 in favor of the Chargers. But since they missed it, it was 30-20, still in the Chargers' favor. And, a lot of people were blaming Herbert for the loss, but he didn't have any turnovers. I'll admit he didn't play that great in the second half, but the defense got absolutely cooked. And the head coach, Brandon Staley, he decided to ditch the run that was working pretty well. The Chargers could fire Brandon Staley and be in the sweepstakes for Sean Payton. On to the Sunday games. Bills beat the Dolphins 34-31. Josh Allen, 352 passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. Stephon Diggs, 7 catches for 114. Gabe Davis had 6 catches for 113 and a touchdown. And Cole Beasley and tight end Dawson Knox each had touchdown catches. As for the rookie Skylar Thompson of the Dolphins, 220 passing, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Tyreek Hill, 7 catches for 69 yards, and the tight end Mike Gesicki had a touchdown catch. So the Bills, they advanced after they beat their divisional rival in a nail-biter game to win their 8th straight. The Bills' offense had 459 total yards, but 3 turnovers almost costed them the entire game after having a 17-0 lead early in that game. And the Bills looked like they were going to run away with this game when they had that early lead. But the Dolphins hit a field goal in the second quarter to make it 17-3. Allen goes to take a deep shot. He gets picked off. The Dolphins convert a 4th and 8 to get another field goal to make it 17-6. The Bills wind up going 3 and out. They have to punt. And with a minute 45 left in the first half, the Dolphins get a big punt return to the Bills' 30-yard line. And that leads to another field goal to make it 17-9 with a minute 15 left in the first half. But with just 1 minute left in the first half, Allen throws to Cole Beasley. The ball bounces off his hands and is picked off again. The Dolphins score with 35 seconds left, and that's when Thompson hit Mike Gesicki for a touchdown, making it 17-15. But the Dolphins go for 2, and they tie it 17-17. But with 33 seconds left in the first half, Josh Allen and the Buffalo offense move downfield to kick a field goal as time expires to make it 20-17 at halftime. And to open the second half, Josh Allen was sacked. The ball pops loose. The Dolphins scoop and score for a 24-0 lead. Absolute craziness. The Bills, on their next possession, they would have to punt, but they get the ball back when Skylar Thompson takes a deep shot on 3rd and 19 in his own territory. He gets picked off, and the Bills would cash in on that pick when Josh Allen hits Beasley for a touchdown to take a 27-24 lead. The Bills would get the ball back again after the Dolphins punt, and they score another touchdown to go up 34-24 when Allen hits Gabe Davis for a touchdown with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. The Dolphins were able to respond when Jeff Wilson Jr. runs in a touchdown with about 10 minutes left in the game, making it 34-31 in favor of the Bills. Allen would get sacked. The Bills punt. Luckily, the Dolphins would punt. Allen gets sacked again, and the Dolphins get the ball back with 5 minutes left. But they put a good drive together. They get it up to midfield when suddenly it's 4th and 1. On that 4th and 1 play, the play clock hits 0. The Dolphins are out of timeout, so they get a delay of game. They move back 5 yards to make it 4th and 6, and they throw an incomplete pass. The Bills take over on downs, and that pretty much seals the game for the Bills. The Dolphins had a lot of trouble on offense. They had 263 yards. They struggled running the ball with just 42 rushing yards. And the rookie QB drafted in the 7th round, Skylar Thompson, he made his playoff debut after injuries to starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa and second-string quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Sure, Skylar Thompson only completed 18 of 45 passes with 1 touchdown and 2 picks, but he wasn't even supposed to make the start, and he made the best of his opportunity. He threw some amazing passes, but his wide receivers couldn't help him out. They dropped a lot of easy passes all afternoon, and the head coach, Mike McDaniels, he didn't do the offense any favors by not paying attention to the play clock on that 4th and 1 play, which led to 4th and 6. And the Dolphins suffered many injuries this season, but they have a young team and a young head coach and could make some noise in the future. Next game, Giants beat the Vikings 31-24. Daniel Jones, 301 passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 78 rushing yards. Saquon Barkley, 2 rushing touchdowns, and the rookie receiver Isaiah Hodgins, 8 catches for 105 and a touchdown. As for Kirk Cousins of the Vikings, 273 passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. And TJ Hockenson, the tight end, 10 catches for 129. So the Giants get their first playoff win since winning the Super Bowl in 2012. The Giants offense had 443 yards, with 142 of those yards being rushing yards. And the Giants defense, they had no sacks or no turnovers, but they shut down the Vikings run game, and they put a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins to make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And as for Daniel Jones in his first playoff appearance, he played great. He had 379 total yards with 2 touchdowns and no turnovers. And he looked like Mike Vick out there running the ball. The Vikings had no answers to stop Daniel Jones when he ran. And a few weeks ago, the Giants lost to the Vikings 27-24. But Daniel Jones, he had 2 turnovers. He threw a pick and he fumbled, which helped Minnesota win the game. But in this game, he cleaned up the turnovers, and that's a lot of credit to the head coach, Brian Daboll. His first season as the Giants head coach, he won a playoff game, and he was able to help fix Daniel Jones's game too. And after going 11-0 this season in games decided by a touchdown or less, the Vikings are now 11-1 in those games that are decided by a touchdown or less. The Vikings offense had 332 yards with no turnovers, but they failed to run the ball as they just had 61 yards. The Vikings defense had 3 sacks, but they got cooked against the run and the pass of the Giants offense and could not get a turnover. The Vikings could have won this game, but they shot themselves in the foot with these 3 plays. First play of the game is tied 7-7. It's 3rd and 1. Kirk Cousins flips it to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson has nowhere to go. He throws it back to Cousins. Cousins catches the ball behind the line of scrimmage, gets tackled right away, and is at a loss of yards. So then they have to punt, and they punt to the Giants. The Giants score to take a 14-7 lead. Just a bad play call, in my opinion, on 3rd and 1. The second play, the Giants lead 24-21 with 12 minutes left in the game. It's 4th and 1. The Vikings sneak Kirk Cousins at the Giants' 15-yard line. He gets it, but the offensive lineman Christian Darrisaw was offsides for a 5-yard penalty. So then they have to kick the field goal to tie it 24-24. And then the third play, when the Vikings were down 31-24 with a minute 50 left in the game, it's 4th and 8. Cousins throws a 3-yard pass to TJ Hockenson. He's nowhere near the first down. The Giants take over, kneel to win the game. So the Vikings were 13-4 this season, and many say they were a fraudulent team, and I'd agree with it because they barely won a lot of their games, and when they lost, they got absolutely blown out. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Vikings do going forward in this offseason. Next, the Bengals beat the Ravens 24-17. Joe Burrow, 209 passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. Jamar Chase, 9 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. As for Tyler Huntley of the Ravens, 226 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had 54 rushing yards and a fumble. And as for running back J.K. Dobbins, 63 rushing yards, 4 catches for 43 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Tight end Mark Andrews, 5 catches for 73 yards. So the Bengals win a close game as they beat their divisional rival to advance to the next round. They've now won 9 straight games. And the Bengals offense, they struggled. They had 260 yards and only 51 rushing yards, but the Bengals defense stepped up, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and a fumble that was returned for a touchdown to take the lead in the 4th quarter. The Bengals had a 9-0 lead in the 2nd quarter. It should have been 10-0, but the kicker missed an extra point. The Ravens in the middle of the 2nd quarter convert a 4th and 1. They score a few plays later. They're now down 9-7. Next Bengals possession, the tight end Hayden Hurst fumbles the ball. The Ravens capitalize a few plays later with the field goal to take a 10-9 lead at the end of the first half. And in the 3rd quarter, The Bengals established a long touchdown drive when Joe Burrow runs it in to take a 15-10 lead. T. Higgins catches the 2-point conversion. They go up 17-10. The Ravens respond when Tyler Huntley hits a 40-yard touchdown pass to Demarcus Robinson to tie it 17 apiece. And then the Bengals have to punt on their next possession. And then the Ravens are able to march the ball downfield. And this is when disaster happens. The Ravens are third and goal at the 1 yard line, but it was a long yard. It was more like a 2 yard. They're basically at the 2 yard line of the Bengals. And Tyler Huntley tries to Superman leap over the pile. The ball gets hit out of his hand. The linebacker, Sam Hubbard, is right there. He catches it and takes it back for 98 yards. He scores, and now the Bengals jump up 24-17 with a little less than 12 minutes in the game. Tyler Huntley gets sacked, so the Ravens have to punt. But the Bengals, on their next possession, they have to punt. The Ravens player runs into the kicker, though, which gives the Bengals a new set of down. But luckily, Burrow gets sacked, and the Bengals have to punt again. And the next Ravens possession, Tyler Huntley gets sacked, and they'd have to punt. But then the Ravens are able to get the ball back with a little over 3 minutes left. They establish a nice long drive. All of a sudden, it's 4th and 20. 10 seconds left. Huntley takes a shot to the end zone. The ball is tipped in the air. The Ravens receiver almost comes down with it, but drops it, and the game ends, and the season for the Ravens end. And Huntley gets his first playoff start, but, he did not perform too well. He did what he had to do, but that foolish leap at the 1 yard line that led to a fumble 6, it really costed them, and it didn't really make any sense to see that. And it just goes to show that the Ravens really needed Lamar Jackson this game. They probably would have won if they had him. In my opinion, the Ravens were more physical in this game. They were the more physical team. And the Ravens offense had 381 total yards. They ran the ball for 155. The Ravens defense had 4 sacks and 1 forced fumble. They didn't allow the Bengals offense to really get going. But the 2 turnovers, especially the fumble 6 by Huntley, is what really costed the Ravens this game. And it really proves why they need to pay Lamar Jackson, and who knows, the way it seems with what he tweets on Twitter and how he's acting, he might not be a Raven next season. And as for the Ravens coaching staff, they need to fire the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. His play calling is just so bad. And the Ravens head coach, John Harbaugh, he won a Super Bowl a few years ago with the Ravens. I'm sorry, not a few, but like many years ago, almost 10 years ago. But his job might be at stake too. A lot of changes need to be coming for the Ravens this offseason if they want to succeed in the future. The final game is the Monday night game. The Cowboys beat the Buccaneers 31-14. Dak Prescott, 305 passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. Tight end Dalton Schultz, 7 catches, 95 yards, and 2 scores. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup each had a touchdown catch. And as for Tom Brady, 351 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Chris Godwin, 10 catches for 85 yards. And Julio Jones, 7 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. So the Cowboys get a dominant win on the road to advance to the next round. The Cowboys offense had 433 yards while running the ball for 128 yards with no turnovers. Cowboys defense had 2 sacks and one interception that happened in the end zone. And that interception was huge because the Cowboys scored to take a 6-0 lead. The Bucs marched down the field. It looks like they're about to score, but there's an interception that happens, and that's a huge swing of momentum. The Cowboys defense also frustrated Brady by getting tons of pressure on him. The Cowboys played a near-perfect game. The only flaw was the kicker, Brett Maher, going 1 for 5 on extra points. That was just real ugly to see. That was like the worst thing that the Cowboys did all night. And the Cowboys exercised their demons in this game. They haven't won a road playoff game in about 30 years. They checked that off. They can't win in the blue jerseys. Check that off. They can't win on grass fields. Check that off. And they can't beat Tom Brady. He's 7-0 against them all the time. Well, guess what? They beat Tom Brady, so check that off. And Cowboys haters, they're actually the funniest people to me. Before the game, it was Tom Brady owns you guys. The Bucs are going to send you home. And then after the game, it's, well, you know, the Bucs had an 8-9 record. Tom Brady is washed now. And then they also said, Dak Prescott, he's a turnover machine. But then after the game, when Dak had 5 total touchdowns with no turnovers, they were absolutely silent, absolute crickets. So credit to the Cowboys haters. You guys always make me laugh. And all I have to say as a Cowboys fan is, how about them Cowboys? We're going to the next round. Let's go. As for the Bucs, their offense had 403 yards, but they failed to run the ball like all season. They just had 52 rushing yards. Tom Brady had a tough game. He completed 35 out of 66 passes with an interception in the red zone, which was his first red zone interception since joining the Bucs. The defense got smacked around all night too. The Bucs did win the NFC South this season with a 8-9 record, but in the playoffs they failed to do anything. They underachieved big time. The Bucs need to blow the whole team up, send Brady somewhere he could go. I doubt Brady retires. He needs somewhere with a good roster. I think the Raiders are a good fit. They have a top 3 wide receiver, a great running back, a good tight end, and they have a head coach in Josh McDaniels that he's worked with in the past in New England. So I do think Tom Brady played his last game with the Bucs, but not in his career. And after the game, the Bucs fired their offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, who just was an awful offensive coordinator all year. And it's going to be interesting to see what direction the Bucs go this offseason. So that's it for my NFL wild card playoff round recap. Make sure you subscribe to me on I almost said Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on my Instagram, and take care and have a wonderful day.